A shocking development in the case to prove that the 2020 election was stolen. There is some major movement on all of this, and the top law enforcement official in the land is now confirming that they have the evidence. The FBI executed a search warrant in Fulton County, Georgia. They took all of their ballots. And by the way, I find the irony of this beautiful, because they would have been legally able to destroy those ballots had they not tried to put Donald Trump in prison. It's actually them arresting Donald Trump, giving him a mugshot, and trying to charge him for these crimes, which is why they have the ballots in the first place. But you'd think that if this was a fair election, they'd just say, okay, count the ballots. The ballots are going to show that we didn't do anything wrong. But instead, they are rabidly suing like animals to try and get their ballots back. Thankfully, a judge slapped them down and said that the DOJ can keep the Fulton County rigged election ballots after the raid. Here's the ruling right here. This is, of course, a massive decision. And now administration officials who didn't normally speak out against stolen election style rhetoric, right? This was like a Trump campaign cornerstone, because obviously Trump knew the election was rigged and stolen. There's election fraud in every single state in America. Election fraud is normal. It's common. It shouldn't be normal. It's awful. Every election fraudster should be deported. But nonetheless, I showed this map all the time to show you that there's every single state in the country is currently litigating a stolen election case, a case of either illegal voting, illegal balloting, mass voter fraud, and so on and so forth. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is a critical issue. And now that they have been gathering the evidence, you have people even like Susie Wiles who are coming out, and she's never does interviews, is very mild-mannered. She's the White House chief of staff. She's arguably the most powerful woman on earth. And here's what she just said about the stolen election.
Which I was not in the inner circle. I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine why. I drove down to Mar-a-Lago, which I think he thought I live, 10 minutes from there, but it's really 4 hours. And we had a lovely dinner. And at the end of it, he wanted to know why he won Florida, but maybe struggled in some other states that I think we're going to find out he actually did win.
So this is Susie Wiles. She's talking about how Donald Trump recruited her and that he was tracking the campaign success in 2020 in states like North Carolina and states like Florida that didn't get rigged. And then he ended up making the guy who ran North Carolina, Michael Whatley, the RNC chair, and he ended up making Susie Wiles his campaign chair. Very wise move by President Trump. And is it a wise move by President Trump to swap out Pam Bondi for Todd Blanche? Now, this is very interesting. Todd Blanche just blew the lid off of the evidence that they have on stolen elections and election fraud inside of the DOJ. A reminder that it's the DOJ that it currently has all of the ballots from Fulton County and Maricopa County. It's the DOJ that did the raid. It's the DOJ that owns all of the illegal ballots. And so Todd Blanche has just made a pretty stunning declaration that the American people will learn the truth about the 2020 election theft. And he says there is a ton of evidence, quite a term usage there. If you saw the amount of boxes they were pulling out of Fulton County, a ton of evidence that it was in fact
evidence
stolen.
That the election was rigged. Well, there's a ton of evidence that the election was rigged. That's not something the DOJ needs to tell you about. There's been evidence about that for many, many years. What I can tell you is that we have multiple investigations going on in Arizona, in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia, and that's exactly what we're looking at. By the way, this is very difficult because they're very good. They're very good at hiding up misconduct and hiding what they're doing. And so that's why we're very focused on finding out whether the right people voted, whether people who were supposed to vote voted, whether there was one vote cast per voter. And that's what we're doing in multiple states. And I expect, and again, people, you'll say to me, how long has it taken? Why is it taking so long? And the reality, the answer to that is because it takes a lot of work to uncover what happened in 2020. It takes a lot of old, good old-fashioned law enforcement police work, which is what we're doing, and we have great prosecutors working on it as well. And I expect that, and I assure the American people that as soon as we have something to say for it, whether it's charges, whether it's a report, whether it's the results of an investigation, the American people will learn about what we've uncovered.
I think that's very interesting. They're talking about how they're very good at covering up their crimes. And this is a playbook that I think will eventually look directly back at our deep state, or our CIA, working with states like Venezuela in order to rig elections the way that they do in Brazil. Why is it that the numbers are the exact same in Brazil, the exact same for people that use Dominion or Smartmatic software? Like, why are the numbers always the exact same in every single election? Why is there always the blip at the very end that shoots the left-wing candidate up over the top? You can always see it. The trend is burned into the back of my skull as a reminder that Donald Trump was winning every single swing state in 2020 when they stopped counting ballots. It all does need to be investigated, and it all, like criminal charges, he says. There's a ton of evidence that the election was rigged. It's great to have clarity like this, clarity from Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard reporting to the president, and she was there, of course, during the Fulton County raid, that they now know that the machines switched the votes.
The things that we're investigating, we have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time, and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
We have seen them change the outcome of elections. We've seen them rig the elections. Everybody listen to Todd, multiple investigations. Where are the multiple 2020 election investigations located? The multiple federal investigations rigging the 2020 election in Maricopa County and Fulton County, Georgia. He's not required to let you know this. Pam Bondi never said anything like this about the investigations. I don't know, man. Is this why we got the switch up? 2020 was stolen. We have multiple investigations going in Arizona and Fulton County, and this is exactly what we are looking at. DNI Gabbard is involved in this situation as well. They're proving the case that there was an actual theft of the election. The entire Democrat plot is being treated as one giant conspiracy case. All the individual elements and insurrection are being exposed to the public. The hammer falls. It'll be right before our very eyes. Okay, people are very excited about this. What do you think? Obviously, he couched it that this is going to be this is a hard case to prove and takes a lot of work. But if you have the actual ballots and they're screaming over the actual evidence and they're suing to try and get it back, you know they got something. And you have the White House Chief of Staff, Todd Blanche, Tulsi Gabbard, and J.D. Vance all out here. J.D. Vance in an interview with me saying the same thing. They got something. They got something. I'm excited to see what happens next. Please let it happen before the midterms. And I think that this is why they wrapped up Nicolas Maduro. I've always said that. I think this is because so much of the software was run out of Venezuela. I think that's part of the Nicolas Maduro, like, plead out, right? How you helped rig the election, how this software works. I think that's going to be part of it. Anyway, that's my grand conspiracy. What's yours? Let me know in the comment section. It's your boy Benny. See ya.